Okay. Okay.
So yeah, here we are. This is just the basic WordPress login. You can typically get to this through not a big, long, ugly URL like this, but you go to just your domain, which we're going to use ours as an example, and then you just go to wp-admin, and the login for your domain would show up, and you just enter your username and password. And then you're in, and you've logged in, right? Like you've
I have
used
not
yours.
logged in.
Oh, okay. All right, so this will all be.
Well, no, I actually have logged in. I didn't know what the heck I was looking at. So this dashboard that you're looking at right now.
Uh-huh.
What are you doing there?
Now this is mostly the same. Everyone's going to have slightly different elements on the side based on what template we install. And especially if you use like a template monster template, you know, there are a lot of extra things that that usually just have to do with different places the content is posted. Like they created this testimonials just so I had one place where I could add testimonials. Quite frankly, it's a little bit more of a pain than if it were just added as pages, but that's what you get when you buy templates. So a few of these might be extra on mine that you wouldn't have on yours and vice versa, but I won't even touch those, like testimonials, services, FAQs, our team. Those are all options that the template I bought for magnetized sites installed, and so those are totally optional. They don't matter to you. You might have slightly different ones, but it's usually labeled and it's pretty obvious. It usually has to do with the page on the site. Like for example, you know, so when I bought the template, those pages were in alignment with the pages in the top nav category. So you can fumble your way through figuring out what those are. And then they had one section for this stuff. Like this is, I don't know, window 2. And then when you go to the blog, this is like window 3.
Okay.
So you can usually just fumble your way through figuring out what elements go where. But
I can't find where. Oh, okay.
Are you looking for your own?
I was trying to, but I can't. I don't remember. Do you remember my password? Oh, I got it.
Yeah. I think it's your regular one with a $sign afterwards. It's the one you sent me before.
What's my admin?
Oh, I think it's instead of admin, yours is Jamie.
Jamie. Okay. So I go to WordPress. What do I do? Go to thrivematchmaking.com. I'm sorry. I know you're taping this. Would you not like me to talk?
No, that's fine. Like I said, this is just a dry run anyway. So anyone that's not on just gets to listen to your customized stuff instead of asking their own. So that's their deal.
Okay.
So Dean and Jeff, sorry, you guys are on your own.
Okay, so do I go to thrivematchmaking.com and then /admin?
WP-admin.
WP-admin.
Which stands for WordPress admin.
Yeah, okay.
And then you can just log in from there. And I can tell you, I'll be able to tell you what the ones you can compare
so
with
it's
yours.
Jamie, Jamie, and then Boo.
Stop.
B-O-O.
Stop.
Oh.
We're recording.
Oh, don't say it. Okay.
Yeah.
We're recording. Okay.
I
Got it.
can send it to you if you don't remember it, but
I think I got it. Oh, wait. I think that's wrong. Okay, wait. I don't have it. Okay.
here it is. Here it comes. I think that's what I have in my spreadsheet for your setup. Then I just texted it to you or sent it to you.
Okay.
Let me know if that gets in.
Did you text it to me?
No, it's in the the window for GoToMeeting.
Okay.
In the chat window.
Yeah, window. Shoot. Oh, yeah. Okay, it's in. We're in. Cool. Thank you.
So looking at yours, you probably have similar stuff. If you don't have Jetpack, you will. I think you do. We won't go over a lot of that stuff, but posts, every blog has that. Pages, every blog has that. Links, every blog has that, which you won't use. It's kind of dated. Media, every blog has that. Comments, yep. So I think it's just these ones here that you don't have, and then comments, feedback. Feedback, I don't know. Yeah, feedback and portfolio, I think, are unique to mine. Forums is that's unique to mine because I installed a forum that we will hopefully eventually have as a resource for you, so you can ask questions and watch videos as they get added and things like that. Topics, nope. Replies, nope. Appearance, it's definitely one you use for themes, for swapping out themes, which we played with a little bit earlier, as well as moving widgets around. Those are the two biggest things you use. Everything else you can kind of ignore.
What is a widget?
I'll show you. So widgets have to do with, well, several things, but largely they have to do with this right column when you have a blog, or left column, or whatever it is. But I have a categories widget. I have a recent posts widget. This is a text widget I use to install, this call to action.
So it's like an icon?
This is an icon. It's actually this is just an image which is made to look like it has a button on it, but you can click anywhere on it and take the quiz. Which is just a customized thing we do, and we'll eventually make it so that can be an add-on if people wanted to do something other than a default opt-in with Aweber or GetResponse or whatever. So that's what a widget is, and we can go back and just play with that. So notice that I have the call to action, then categories, then recent posts, then tags. And that's all I have in my side column. Anywhere I go in my blog, we can go to the individual page covering our radio show. Notice that right column is still there, still in the same order, all of that. And then you can customize this yourself. You can have anything in there that you want. And there are just a few things, like notice that I have a categories one. This is a good idea for you to have because every time you add a blog post, you can categorize it. So, and you can just make those up as you go. You want to tend to have, start to group things into categories. Like you could have in your case, you could have a for men category, for women category, dating advice, whatever. As you write the posts, you can start to make those up on the fly. You don't have to be all organized about it up front. But notice that when I do that, I can click on one, and it will just gather up all the blogs that are just for fun. So apparently I just have 2 right now.
Okay.
Um,
Cool. And you categorize that as just for fun.
correct. And I'll cover that when I do a sample blog post.
Okay.
So going back to just our widget category, just keep that right column in mind. Looks like my connection's a little slow. So these are all the different widgets that are installed with the blog. Anything with a my before it was installed with my template, so you won't have that. But everything else you do have, and it's just drag and drop. So notice that I've got the header, which has, that just allows me to customize the title up top in my header. And I can change this name and this tagline. So most sites usually have that. Some have that as a flat image, and you'd have to pay a designer to change it, but most are designed so that you can change that yourself.
Okay.
And again, that depends on the template. But in your case,
how do I know what
yours should be changeable because you had yours custom designed by a designer. How do you know what?
Okay. You told me that you thought he might have used a template.
Oh, right. Site. Well, you know how you can almost always tell if text can be changed or not? By doing this. If you can drag and see it highlighted per letter, odds are that can be changed. If, like this, notice that if I want to change on this, I can't. Because it's a flat image. This is all an image. So I can't change this text. I would have to change it myself or hire a designer to do that. But notice that this, when the computer can read every letter, that means that there is a way to change it. And in this case, it's through the widgets. So I can change my slogan if I want and my tagline. In this case, first content area. So see, I can just click on these the drop downs, and I can figure this out. Our team philosophy, guaranteed results, already have a site. That's this stuff on the home page. So then I know I can go and edit the words in here through widget number 2. So that's custom to my site. But again, some of these you just fumble through and figure out based on your individual template. But you start to get a knack for just figuring it out pretty quickly. First content area, so that's first content area. Second content, I think, is that's down below. Second content area. And, that's just because it's a different design. And this is where, the more complicated a blog you pick, the more stuff you have to figure out, which you're usually just going to have to fumble through and figure out. Yours is just a flat blog the whole way through, so that'll be really easy to figure out. You don't have any of that stuff. Yours will just have, this sidebar. And then notice that I can just swap these. And then, that's saving the header. And then notice that, just by dragging and dropping those widgets, see how I just swapped those two? So it's easy as cake to just, swap out those widgets and change the order if you want them in a different order or whatever. I usually recommend keeping your call to action above the fold, so I just want to get that text widget back up there.
Yeah. Okay, so I need to link in my CRM.
Right.
You know how to do that, or let Mark do that?
Yeah, you'll need to let Mark do that. And yours is a little unique, theoretically with yours is a beta site, and we just decided to put you in direct contact with the designer. But yeah, for any future clients who might be listening to this, that would be a request they would start, and we would handle it on our end. But since you're dealing directly with your designer that you found, you just email him direct. So, but he can either add an image like this or add a link based on whatever your individual CRM does.
I need to play around with my CRM.
Yeah, I'm sure they have opt-ins and list building things and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, he did. He sent me tons of videos to look at. I just haven't had time.
Cool.
I'm so busy. That's a joke.
Busy playing hooky on snow days so you can get your hair done?
Yes. Yes.
All right. So so does that explain the blog or the widgets section? Like mostly it's just stuff you play around. And then what else? So I don't have a section for comments. That's another common one. Like recent posts, recent comments. I have.
Can you disable my comments?
Can you? Yeah. And that
You
I'll
did
show
it.
you.
Remember, because all those people were spamming me.
Oh, right. Yeah, and that's something like you should have an ASCII installed which prevents spam, but some still get through. But if you ever want to re-enable them or whatever, that's down in settings. And let's come back to that. So I want to try to do this in an order. So we covered the widgets, which is just that basic layout over on the right side. And then let's talk about the two most common things you'll do. And I sent you a video earlier, but this way you can just ask questions as we go too. So the two most common things you do, well, the most common thing is hopefully adding posts to your blog. And again, blog posts can be anything you want. You can be as formal or informal as you want. There's no right or wrong way. The big thing is you should be yourself. You don't have to be all formal and I mean, because that can start to get boring. Sometimes you just share a personal story, like I was on a date last week and you'll never guess what happened. And if you haven't ever watched it, I recommend watching Julia and Julia. It's probably on Netflix, or if not, you can rent it somewhere. But it's about blogging, and it's about someone who gets started, and it's about like how she builds her list and how all of a sudden she has this huge following and so on. So it's kind of inspiring for thinking about blogging. You kind of get inside her head as far as how she explains all the different cooking projects she does and all that. So it'd be a cute little movie to watch that would be helpful to understand blogging. But really all it is, what a blog stands for is weblog, which is an online log of your thoughts. So obviously you want to keep it somewhat related to dating and you and all of that, but that's what the most common thing you're going to do is adding blog posts. So to do that, you do that through the posts section. So you can see all of the posts I've added just through clicking the all posts option.
Oh, lucky. Okay.
And then, so here's the one you'll do most often. I don't even, you can go to categories and you can add those, but I don't even bother. I just do that as I'm writing the blogs. I decide how to categorize them as well as how to tag them. So there are two slightly different purposes to categories and tags. Tags, actually this, I want to find a different widget because I want to get a tag cloud. What tag clouds do is it takes all of the different tags you've added, and then anytime you have tags that are added more often, like if I have a lot of tags that have to do with a call to action or automation, then it highlights those and prioritizes those, either by putting them first in the list or enlarging them in an actual cloud. So people can see what is written about most often. And some people like to just lazily look through that and say, oh, this is a really popular topic. I'm going to read about that. So that's what a tag is, and you should just get in the habit of doing that for organization purposes. That also kind of helps the search engines navigate your site and find different content that you write about. And then categories.
Add. I don't even know. I don't understand how to make up a tag.
I'll show you when we'll make up a blog post, and I'll show you. And then categories is just a different flavor of that same thing. It's more common. Tags is optional. Categories is optional too, but you should really have it because this is about just giving your viewers a good experience and helping them feel nice and organized about poking around your site. What you want to do is, like, once you have dozens or hundreds of blog posts, you don't want to force them to read through all of your stuff. You want to give them a way to say, I just want to learn about automation right now, and you can just click on that link. So it's not a big deal for me right now because this is a brand new site, and I only have like half a dozen posts. But once you get up there, these become really important. When you let's add a post. So when you add a new post, you can just go straight to that link.
Add new. I see. Okay.
And then a title. There used to be a lot of debate about these titles back in the days of SEO and getting your sites to rank and all of that stuff. But quite frankly, that's all almost irrelevant now. You should write naturally for the purpose of your readers and being entertaining. I like to write catchy titles. I've been pretty lazy with my stuff so far, but a lot of times I like to write catchy titles where, you want to think like you're writing a story in the newspaper. You want them to kind of go, oh, I think I know what that's about, but it might be a play on words or something. So just think of it that way. Don't really worry about the search engines. Sometimes it'll be good to, mention for men, dating advice for men or dating advice for women or whatever, but just don't overdo it. You don't want every single one of your blog posts to say for men, for men, for men, for men. They call that spamming the search engines when you do nothing but stuff keywords into your titles and your ad copy. So you're actually kind of better off than you used to be because we used to go to entire conferences that talked about nothing more than like keyword optimization and all that crap. And quite frankly, that stuff is dead now because Google has like slaughtered websites that used to do that, and now they just say write naturally and write for your readers. For their, so, but it is important because when people go and type stuff into Google, this is like 80% of how Google organizes stuff. So, for example, if we go to Google, dating advice, for men. This is the stuff that's going to show up in your title. So these guys wrote probably a blog post, our 10 favorite dating tips for men. So that's your title. It's that simple. That's really all you have to think about. When people search and you're lucky enough for Google to find you and display you in the first page or two of the results, that's what's going to show up. So sometimes you might want to think about, like, what might someone type into a search engine to get this? But really don't really worry about it. If you're writing often enough, and that's the important thing, to be adding content often enough, then, if you just write naturally and regularly, eventually people will just stumble across your sites doing a search and when Google shows your stuff. So that's what you want to think about for adding a title. And then let's just grab some content.
I like
What's that?
I like when you type all those letters.
Yeah, that's much more entertaining, isn't it?
Right.
So after I'm done with that, and this is just like any old text editor, you can do all sorts of, it should be pretty obvious. You can bold stuff. It is kind of important to know the difference between these two. Typically, you want to be in the visual editor because it will actually show what you're doing. Going over to the text side of it is for a little more geeky stuff, like if you want to insert code, like on my on this page where we add the quiz. We wrote this, and then I added code that adds the quiz widget. So in order to do that, I had to be in this text tab, not the visual.
So I'll more likely be in visual.
Correct. The text is probably stuff you would open a ticket for with us or have a designer do.
Okay.
And so for example, if I were doing visual, like if I wanted to bold stuff, if I'm a programmer, I would add some fancy little tags. B for bold, and then close B, and that would tell it to bold it. But if you're in visual, it's just going to show that. Like it'll show that ugly code. In text, the computer reads this code and just makes it bold. Notice that over here, see how it's got that ugly code? Whereas here you don't see it.
Okay.
So that's kind of all you need to know. Is you as just an end user, you're probably never going to need the text section unless you really feel like learning and doing some stuff on your own. Otherwise, you're probably going to open a ticket and just pay a programmer to do it.
Okay.
So that's your post. We usually have SEO, an SEO widget down here that will show what this will look like on Google.
Okay.
Sometimes it's kind of helpful to just glance down at this, and you might say, "Oh, this cuts off. I'm going to shorten that first sentence because that's actually really important." And that's an SEO. That's an SEO move in that you almost want like a little bit of a cliffhanger. You want to give just enough information, but have it so it's enticing for people to actually click through and visit your site. So that's one little thing that we added so that you can kind of forecast what it's going to look like on Google when Google finds it. And it's pretty fun. Like the more often you blog, the sooner Google finds that stuff. I mean, you could be on Google in minutes after you add a post if you're good and diligent about adding stuff.
Okay, I've got like 40.
Awesome.
So far.
Cool.
I think.
Oh, so that's where this will get fun for you. Let's say you're going to be slammed with work or going on vacation next week, but you're building a list of readers who look forward to reading your stuff because you add stuff every couple days. Well, you don't want to be adding stuff while you're on vacation, so you use this feature. So you write your stuff, and you paste in the articles you have. This stuff is all optional. You can play with this or not. I'm not really going to mess with it for the same reason that we talked about before. Google's a lot less concerned about all this stuff, so are we. You can add it or not. It's not too big a deal.
What are you saying? You can give a date to apply it?
Yep. So you can come over here and see how it says publish immediately. That's the default, but you can change it and say publish it in 2 days.
Cool.
So you can just add those into your queue.
I can like put a lot in the queue. Yeah.
And
I like that idea.
Here's something even better. Since you've already been very good about doing your homework and hiring writers, like I'm guessing you have 40 because you've, outsourced this to writers and people you've dated and all of that. You can take it a step further, and this is probably even more important to delegate than the writing itself. Like, don't do this crap yourself. This is $3 an hour Filipino or Indian work. So you could just send them. You could send them 40 articles, give them a login, and they can add the articles for you.
Oh, seriously?
Oh yeah.
That'd be sweet.
For probably like
this would take me a long time.
10 or 15 bucks. Well, I mean, the whole idea is it would be copying and pasting, and hopefully get someone that's worth their salt, and they'll do things like bold subheadings and things like that. But and then
so
make sure it looks good.
This would not be the writers. This would not be the writers. This would be someone else.
Correct.
Okay.
Unless you get a really good writer who you can just give an admin login and let them start directly adding posts. But you should probably have kind of an approval process where you are the one who approves of the articles. But then you can gather them all up and say, okay, I want to post all these to mine. Let's post them every 2 or 3 days and give them someone to do.
Okay.
And do the same thing. I mean, go to Elance or Odesk or Fiverr. That's a site I haven't shared with you, but for anyone listening, elance.com, odesk.com, or Fiverr, FIVVR.com, and it's exactly what it sounds like. You spend $5 for a task. And, and Jamie, you could probably give him $5 to add 10 blog posts, and maybe you'd even get away with 20.
Really?
Yeah.
Damn.
So.
Okay.
So that's what that little feature is for. You can pre-add posts to your site, so it looks like you're regularly adding content, but what they don't know is you just paid someone $10 to add them all over time. So that's so it's in draft status. As soon as you publish it, it comes out of draft status, and then you tell them when. Move to trash, and then this is where the categories come in. So this was just for fun, and again, maybe you have a category already, or maybe you want to add one, so you just let's add a new one.
So you can use several different categories for one.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yep.
Okay.
So whenever you add a category, make sure to click on click on Add New Category. I'm not going to do it because I don't want a category named Sample, but so this is kind of like the Save button for this category section. And then same thing here, tags. Try to keep tags short. So these categories can be, 4, 6, 7 words. Tags should be 1 or 2. So tags should be like keywords. And again, so this is more for human visitors. Tags is for both lazy human visitors who want to see what the most common posts are, as well as the search engines, because the search engines can then use your tags as keywords, and that will help with your rankings, because Google will see, oh, well, they write for men quite often, so Google can start to get to know that your site must have something to do with advice for men and advice for women and so on.
Cool.
And then this last one is a default widget that you should have that is featured image. So set featured image, and there's a difference between featured images and everything else, but I've got a bunch of them that are added there from other stuff, but let's just say I want to do this. Let's say it's this time-saving tip I want to add. This that way, when you add that, it'll show. Let's go ahead and just publish this. Oh, and I want to change the date actually. So it shows up on the live site. You can backdate these too. Not really any purpose for that, but you might think of one in the future. It's slow to publish. Doesn't like me backdating it. So there's my post.
Oh, yeah.
And it
Cool.
gives a nice little image. So that's a cool thing that you don't really need any technical knowledge other than what I just showed you to do. And so it adds it there, and then it adds it as the first part of your blog post. So
who's Tim Brown? Are you having blogs by other people too?
Well, I'll show you that in case you decide to outsource this, because you shouldn't ever give someone else your login name. I need to go and change Tim Brown because I outsourced setting up. I had a bunch of widgets and plugins added, and she didn't know what name I wanted to use, so she just added it as Tim Brown. But I can just go change that, and it'll show up as Joel McDonald. Okay. Which I can show you how to do too. That's probably an important one. We should talk about it anyway. So that's really all you need to know for adding posts. So remember, posts pretty much go chronologically and get added under the blog tag. If you have a regular, some people might choose to set up their entire site as a blog, in which case it would just get added chronologically under the home page. You wouldn't need a blog tag because the entire site is a blog. The next section and the next most common thing you'll do, at least when you get started, is pages. Obviously, you're going to add these a little less because you would run out of space. So you really need to limit these to however many fit. And sometimes if you go over, it'll wrap it and it starts to look all ugly because you've got multiple rows here. So that'll be something that you would need a custom designer to change if you really, really want. Like in my case, if I really wanted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, yeah, I would probably squeeze in 7 and just put them closer together. But if I wanted many more, then I'd have to do some design work or hire a designer to change that for me. So whatever it is, you should limit your pages to whatever's going to fit there. And sometimes you can manage that yourself by shortening those titles. Other times, if you just have to have those extra pages, then you talk to a designer and you get a change. It's not that big a deal. So let's go and just talk about pages. So it's not much different than adding posts other than knowing the difference in categories. So it's the same thing. Add all pages, add page, and then your page order. This widget doesn't even, we don't even use this widget here. But so let's just show the subtle differences with adding new pages.
Okay.
My goodness. My PC needs to tune up. So notice it's pretty much the same as a blog post. The big differences are what's over here. Now in my case, I can do a few different things. So let's talk about those differences. Title and content, identical to posts. All this SEO stuff is identical, and it's optional. It's a good idea to add that. So each article you write, you should think about what a couple keywords. And the title you can leave alone because otherwise it's going to use the title that you have here. If you want a slightly different title to show up on Google when people search for it, you would type it in here. And same with meta description. The meta description is a shorter version of of what we showed you with the sample. This is your meta description right here. All this stuff. So if you want that to be different than the first sentence or two of your article, you would do that here. So that's what that meta description is. But it's usually a good idea to just let that match the first few words of the article. But like I said, that's there as an SEO option if you choose to take advantage of it. So now let's talk about the differences. Publish immediately or changing it, that's all the same.
But this is a new page, so this is going to be like at the top.
Correct. Yeah, if we add this, it would show up over here. And notice, so this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If I wanted to add a new one, and I want it to show up, between these two, I could number it number 5 and renumber this as number 7.
I see.
And I could change that page order. So that's what this order number is. You can also do subcategories. So if you find yourself running out of space, and I noticed that Mark did this for you, where some of these can be drop-downs. So if you want like FAQs for men, FAQs for women, you don't have to take up 2 spaces and have FAQs for men and then FAQs for women.
Oh, you could drop it down.
Yeah, so that's where parent categories come in. So any pages I've added, if I want to add it under something, I would add it under a parent. So I can add some. I could add a for men and for women that would go under FAQs. So that way I'm not taking up additional space on the blog. That's just a nice little organizational trick. Most of the time you're not going to use that feature, but it's there if you want it. And this is another one that some templates will have, others won't, but it's a nice feature in that notice that on my blog I've got this right navigation. But on my FAQs, I did that as a 1-column addition. On my actual quiz, it's a 1-column. Like I don't have a right navigation on certain things because there's some cases where you just won't want that as a distraction, or you'd rather have a full 1-column width instead of 2 columns with a navigation on it. So you can choose a few different, I could go with full width, the home page layout, which would be a big, like that would have all sorts of additional stuff in there. It would have that, picture of that ugly guy at the bottom. It would be in this format, and then I would just be adding content right above here, and then all of this stuff would show below. So again, you're not going to really need to worry about it. 9 times out of 10, you're going to add it as a default template as a blog or a page. But should you decide you want it as a full width or something like that, there are all sorts of different layouts you could choose to do.
Is this that portfolio 2 column, the one you said my site should look like? See right there? Remember you said front to the right to be 2 columns?
Oh, no. No, this doesn't have any of that. I can't even necessarily think of one that might. I bet there might be one. Phoenix. This is a friend of mine in Arizona. He likes to use this format. Let me see if he's still using it. No, he's not. No, he used to because he had a really wide opt-in up top, and then it would be 2 columns. He's not still doing it, though. I can't think of any off the top of my head that look like that.
Okay.
But yeah, neither of those are the format I was talking about.
Okay.
Okay, so that covers the most common things you would do. Another one would be blog roll links. If you could add a bunch of links, like if you want to link to, your dating guru in Chicago, and like you could all network with other people in different cities, and you could all link to each other. They've kind of done away with that.
No,
well, they've kind of done away with it because Google doesn't like that. That used to be a way of tricking the search engines into thinking that you had a lot more links than you did. And it would be, and now Google has kind of considered that a web ring, like where everybody's just saying, "Hey, I'll link to you if you link to me," and like they don't like that. So it was called a blog roll, and that's kind of gone away. So you don't really need to worry about it all that much. So that covers the two most common things you'll be doing: posts and pages. Comments and feedback, those are unique to mine. Portfolio, unique to mine. Forums, unique to mine. Topics and replies, unique to mine. Appearance. Let's just talk about swapping out themes real quick.
Okay.
And I'm going to go do something wild and crazy and just take this pretty looking website and just say, let's make it look like it did when I installed the blog.
Okay.
A lot of stuff will get deactivated.
Well, don't do it.
Too late. Already did it. So notice that, this is just to demonstrate how easy it is to swap things out. Like, this is going to look hideous, but like that's just an option you have, and you could install all sorts of different ones, like 2013. Where did these all go? Yeah. So, but then all I have to do to go activate the old one is activate it. So you can install tons of different ones. So this, I doubt, is even going to be an option for future visitors, because we're going to install, semi-custom themes no matter what. We kind of decided that we're not going to put our name on something if it's just a cheap free theme. So we're going to be doing, more polished themes anyway. All right, look at this. I broke my site. But I will show you a few different options you have. Should you choose to venture out on your own and just play with some different themes, I'll show you how that gets done. Come on, thing.
Okay. For other people who will do that.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I said, you paid someone, so you wouldn't really do that. We don't really need to do that because we had a custom theme installed. But if you ever did want to do that, or if your old theme broke and you lost touch with your designer or whatever, the way you do that is you just go over here to install themes. And how when we were talking, you're saying, "Oh, well, I'd like it to be black." Okay, so you can search for black themes.
Oh, and this search is WordPress.
And then you just scroll through them and go, "Oh, that could work, or that could work, or whatever."
Cool.
And all you do is install now. And actually, you can, instead of installing, we could just preview it. And it'll show you what your blog would look like. Live preview. And so notice I installed it, but I didn't activate it yet because it's going to show me what it looks like.
Oh.
So see, it shows my categories. it reinstalled a blog role, which I didn't have activated. But once I actually install it, it'll show all of the other stuff. But see, it's got my my pages, all that stuff. So then I could say, yeah, I like it, save and activate, or keep looking, cancel.
Cancel. I got you.
So that's a fun one that you or probably anybody else won't be using, because we're going to actually use a more professional design. But if people want to play with it, that's there, and there are thousands of those themes. Customize, I would not recommend messing with that ever. That's designer stuff. Widgets we talked about earlier. Menus, same thing. Pretty much everything else is like, all of this other stuff is for professionals who know what they're doing. So themes and widgets are really all you need to mess with in that appearance tab.
Okay.
Plugins can be fun to add. There are.
What if I decide to do a video, like a blog video?
Oh, that's a piece of cake, and that we set up a YouTube channel for you. So you would create a video, upload it to your YouTube channel, because you will, if you're regularly adding videos, you'll begin to get a following from that via the YouTube channel, and then you can just link to it and embed the video. Now that's one where that you want to do that in text mode. So you would write a little introduction paragraph that says, hey, here's a video I did or found about such and such, and you would write a post and then add it as text, because YouTube can just give you an embed code to just paste into your site, which is actually, did I overwhelm you by saying that? You want me to demonstrate that? Or
Sure.
do you get what I'm talking about?
Well,
okay, let's finish.
I don't know if this is overload for me.
That's fine. That's why we're recording this. So let's finish this plugin section. Notice all these. These are just all different plugins that I added. And I mean, you can add anything you want. Like we added the Google Analytics code thing. We added 90% of these widgets as a default for what we added for your website when we set it up. Easy social icons, we added that, and then boom, they threw that over there for us to edit on our own. And that's where we added your Google Plus icon and your Twitter icon, your Facebook icon, and all of that. So you add them, and then it links to your individual pages, and you can just edit those on your own. I can't speak to whether or not you will have that, because Mark might have set it up differently, but it'll be easy to figure out either way, because he'll set it up and you'll change those links yourself, or he'll change them or whatever. But basically, you can add, I mean, there are just tons and tons of plugins that you can just go and find. You can just do searches for plugins. So active and inactive. Oh, add new plugins. So if you ever are feeling gutsy, you can search and you can say, oh, what kind of Facebook plugins are there? There can be, I bet there'll probably be Facebook like button plugins that would allow you to give a like on each individual blog page. So they have little descriptions. I tend to avoid anything unless it has at least 4 stars, maybe 3, if it's got something I really, really want to be able to do. And the cool thing is you can always just add it, and if you don't like it, you can take it off. But no, here's Spider Facebook. So it's got a Facebook like button, a Facebook send button, so you can send people to your Facebook page. All of these. Oh, Facebook comments box. That's pretty cool, because they can comment on your blog, and it'll show up as a comment and a link back to you on their Facebook page. So there are all sorts of things you can do, and that's one of the reasons we like setting you up with WordPress, is you can be, as you get more comfortable with this, you can start to customize it even more and start to do some cool little things. Like if you're a really, really heavy Facebook user, then you want to add, all the Facebook type stuff that you can, so that your fans can start to promote you, and when you write articles that they can like it, they can link to it, they can send their friends to it, or whatever. So that's what those plugins do.
Okay. Do you remember you said you were going to put something in where whenever I write a blog, it would show up on my Facebook, on my Pinterest, on everything?
Uh-huh. That should be...
Is that a plugin?
That is. And that should be installed on yours.
I don't know if he took it off, do you know?
I don't know, but we can go back through that checklist.
Okay.
But that's done through Jetpack.
I was wondering what that was.
Yeah, so you then go to Jetpack. Jetpack is pretty fancy. A lot of it is fancier than my own knowledge base. But I can show you. And that's done through Publicize. So you just basically, once your Jetpack is set up, which when we deliver it to you, it's set up for you. And those should just be available for you, and then you can tweak those or adjust them as you want. Ironically, this is kind of like the cobbler's shoes, and I don't have it set up for my own, but that's because I'm waiting until he has our Facebook and Twitter pages customized. But yeah, so the publicize feature is what that is. So you can distribute that to all of those: Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, etc. And that's about the only one I use. There are all sorts of other things you can choose to use at your own risk. Google Plus profile. Custom
What's
CSS.
Google
You
Plus?
don't want.
Is it trying to be Twitter or something?
It's kind of trying to be Facebook, and they're falling on their face, but Google falling on their face is still, a pretty big network.
Not bad.
Yeah.
Okay.
But there are a lot of people that promote through it, and some people that prefer it over Facebook. So the whole idea of that syndication is so that you at least have a minimal presence, and then as you start to pick up signal, as you start to get followers on those, then you might decide to dedicate a little more time to those. But at the very least, you'll have a Facebook presence, at least you'll have a Twitter presence, and at the very least, you'll be publishing your blog posts. Like I said, that's at the very least. You're going to need to eventually start to participate and not just promote yourself, because like Twitter, if you just constantly send links to your blog posts, people will just start to unsubscribe because they're like, this person isn't participating in a conversation. They're just always talking. And that's something that people say about Twitter, is like, Twitter is thousands of people talking and no one listening. But, so you do have to kind of engage and follow, and when other people post stuff, you share it, you participate, you comment, you say, hey, nice post. But like I said, at the very least, you can do that. But the way to really be effective with all of it, and just like Facebook, I mean, I've noticed some people that have like 500 or 600 friends, and when their birthday comes up, they have like 250 happy birthday wishes. I've seen other people that have 1,000 friends, and when their birthday comes up, they just have 30 or 40 happy birthday wishes. And a lot of that is based on, it's not based on how many followers they have, it's based on how engaged in that community they are.
I gotcha.
So
that makes sense.
Like I said, what we do is the bare minimum. It's up to you to start to engage in each of those communities and participate in those conversations, not just throw your own solicitations out there. So, but again, all of that can be done through the Publicize link. You can change or edit your where that stuff is getting syndicated to.
Okay.
And then what else? We're going to talk about, just demonstrate. Was it in a post? It wasn't adding media. And don't let me forget, we're going to come back to the settings just to wrap this up tonight. But there's something else we were going to talk about. It would be through Add New. Actually, we could edit the sample blog post. Shoot, I forget what it was that I was going to tell you. It's at embedding a YouTube video. So let's go look at an individual post, because I did that in my Darren Brown one. So let's go back to our blog, and I'll show you what I'm talking about, and then I'll show you how it's done. So here it is. I give a little intro paragraph. I give a picture of the guy I'm talking about, an intro paragraph, and then I put this video up. So this is someone else's video, but whether you do your own YouTube video or someone else's, it's pretty easy to install.
Okay.
So notice that I just wrote 2 paragraphs, had 3 other paragraphs, and then I inserted the video that can be played and watched from without ever leaving my blog, which is kind of cool. And that's done by, here, let's just get rid of this before I forget. Then we'll go and edit this other one. Okay, so edit. And then remember I talked about visual versus text. So what I would recommend doing is write your content. So see, there are my 2 intro paragraphs, and then I would jump straight into the other ones.
Okay.
And then I would save it and possibly even just publish it. Then after saving it, it's very important that you save first, because it doesn't save between these 2. I would then go over to text, and I would go to wherever I want to insert the video, and I would just insert this code right here, which was handed to me on a silver platter on YouTube. So let's go see if we can find this guy, and I'll show you how I did that. And this would work whether it's a public YouTube video or one of your own videos from your YouTube channel. Now, I won't show you how to upload that. YouTube does that. They tell you how to upload stuff to your channel, but it's pretty easy. So let's go to YouTube. And this is the video that I was talking about. Notice that I can go right here to share, then embed.
Embed. Okay.
And I can even choose the dimensions and change them.
Okay.
So if it doesn't quite fit, I can just change them. And in fact, if you want to get really sophisticated, even if this is too big, you can actually shrink it by getting a calculator and multiplying this by 80% and this by 80%, and you could shrink it even more. But odds are you can just insert one of their default sizes and just copy that and paste it, and that's all I did. So I do it in visual so I can get any bold or underlining or anything I want there, or links, and then I just insert the code, and it knows what to do with it. And then same thing, after you do that, hit update, which is the equivalent of the save button, and you're good to go.
Okay.
So
good information.
Good. I'll be looking forward to seeing how much you use it and how much you outsource it to your folks at Fiverr.
I like Fiverr. I'm gonna have to get me a login there. This is good.
So let's just wrap up with the one other thing, and I'll do my own housekeeping to show you how the few things you want to change. So that's the settings option.
Yeah.
And a lot of this, I'm just going to say, don't pay attention to it. That's for professionals only. But the basic dashboard, pretty obvious. This is where you can change your headline and your tagline.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Your email address you can't change. You're stuck with that.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, you can add a new user, which I'll show you how to do, and then just start to use that login instead. So if you don't want to publish things as Jamie, you can just change your login.
Okay.
But a lot of this stuff we don't really need to go through. It just has to do with formats you like. If you live in the UK, you might prefer this date format or whatever. If you have a calendar in that right navigation, you can choose when your week starts. So that's just your basic one. Writing is kind of an important one. I wish writing and reading it doesn't make as much sense as, I mean, basically this is how people are looking at it. So, when you're writing posts, you can just have, if you're writing dating advice for men all the time because they need the advice 10 times more than women, then you could make for men your default category. Might save you a step or two when you're creating stuff. I don't even know what these are. I never do anything other than standard. Default link category is blog roll. You're not going to use blog roll anymore. If you could allow your folks to post via email, so you could make it so you send an email and it automatically posts. So I would say follow their instructions. I don't want to give advice that might become dated on that. And then this last one, update services, we set you up with an automatic ping account. So it pings like hundreds of different search services so that like whenever you write a post, this is a service that goes out and alerts newsfeed services that there's new content out there on the web. And that just helps you get found a lot faster. You don't even need to worry about it beyond that. We took care of just making sure that was added for you.
Okay.
Reading preferences. Probably not a lot you have to do. Odds are we set you up with a static homepage. Some people, remember earlier I talked about some people will just have their homepage as a blog, which means their homepage is always changing and getting the most recent blog added. In my case, and I think in your case, your homepage is like it's your About Me page. This is our About Us page. So that's where this comes in that we set you up with a static homepage.
Static. Yeah.
And then your blog is where that dynamic content gets added and sorted and categorized. Cool. So you probably don't need to worry about that other than just knowing that that's what it is. And if you wanted to change it, you could. But, you start messing with that and you might be breaking the site and paying someone to fix it. Or spending hours figuring out how to undo it. So I probably just wouldn't mess with it. You can also show how many posts show up in that recent posts section. We have the default as 5. This is geeky technobabble. RSS feeds, you can do full text or summary. That's just leave that with the default. What else? Discussion. What's that?
You have howdy on there.
Howdy? Oh, that's just their default stuff. We don't need to worry about it. That was just like sample text.
Okay.
This is where you get into that. If you're getting hammered by spammers, you can just say, okay, disable anyone from being able to comment. So you just uncheck a few of these boxes and then no one can do it. We should have ASCIIMET installed for you, which will eliminate 95% of the spam out there. But sometimes if you're constantly adding content to your blog, you're going to become more of an authority site, which means more of the spammers are going to really want to get their links onto your site, and 95% might not be good enough. So you might want to change some of these checkboxes to get rid of that stuff. Until you get to that point, I mean, once you get to that point, you'll probably be such an expert that this will explain itself. Until then, I would say don't worry about it and just trust that AsciiMet will do its job well enough for you.
Okay.
Media settings, this is just where you add all of the pictures that you saw earlier. And it just, this just talks about default thumbnail sizes. So remember when I showed you that picture, that stopwatch? Just various things like that. This just sets those default sizes of when you want to add stuff. Probably not something you need to mess with, but it's there for you if you want it.
Okay.
Permalinks, you can leave alone. Forums, that's custom to our site, which we added. Yeah, everything here is just stuff that we added that you won't have on your site, so we can kind of stop talking about all those other things. Yeah, I think that's a good place to wrap up. Oh, no. I want to go to one other thing, which I thought was under settings, but it's not. It's under users. So this is where, like, if you decide to outsource this to someone on Fiverr, I would not give them your username and password. I would try to never do that.
Give them their own? Give them their
Correct. Initially, when I was going to kind of oversee Mark doing your site, I was going to set him up with, I think I did set him up with an admin rights username. I think when he reinstalled it, that all went away. Let's see what happened. Oh, yeah, well, we're not looking at your site, so we don't know. But anyway, you can
I gave him mine. I gave him my password.
Okay. And a programmer designer, that's probably going to be okay. But you can give someone a different login, which is just safer because then you can just turn them off. So it's not that big a deal now because you can just change yours and they'll be locked out. But you know, anytime you give that away, they could get in and they can change it on you, and then you might lose access to your own site. So instead of doing that, you could add a new user. And this is where you could add ghostwriters. You can come up with other people's names, or you can just call them administrator, or you can just have it as a different login and still have it as your name, so that it looks like it was added as you. But basically, all you have to do is just add it here, and you can add that information and change it as you see fit. But while we're at it, let's just demonstrate on how I would change mine. All users. Oh, that is there. Why is that? It shows it's Joel McDonald there. I thought it was Tim Brown.
Oh, well, it said Tim Brown.
Yeah. It says Joel McDonald here. Yeah. Well, I'll have to figure that out on my own. Why that is. But anyway, that's where you can change it. Like if you decide that you don't want to post it as you and you just want to be like generic administrator or something like that, or you want to start using a ghost name, this is where you would do that. But more importantly, I would say add a new user and give them administrator rights. I think you can actually just give them author rights, which means they can't mess with, say, don't add them as an administrator, add them as an author or editor. Okay. That way they can just add stuff and they can't like go jacking with your theme.
Change stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's definitely, a best practice for outsourcing stuff, especially if you're finding someone and that's the first they're touching your site. And, then there's only so much they can mess up, and you could, they could add, they could add, the wrong content or something like that, and you could just delete their entire account, and all of that content would go away. So if you just gave them your username and password, you'd have to go and pick which articles they added that you wanted to take out. So there are several reasons why it would be good to just add a user or multiple users if you start to outsource this.
Okay. Cool.
Sound good?
It's awesome. Thank you. That's very good. Very helpful.
Good. Well, I'll look forward to seeing how soon you start adding this stuff and seeing how it goes. But
cool.
I think that should be enough to make you dangerous. And
I know.
Start
I'm
posting
going to try
stuff.
it on the plane. All right. Thank you.
Sure thing.
I got to go to bed, dude. I'm tired.
All right.
That was
I'm going
great.
to stop the recording.